Hi everyone, I'm Wegener and welcome back to the Early Bird Photo News. This is the first video of 2025 where I'm directly addressing all of you, so I hope you had a lovely holiday season and a great start to the new year and you set yourself some amazing photography goals that you want to achieve through the next 12 months. I've already implemented some of the changes that I wanted to do on my channel because I think there's too much watch me kind of content on YouTube and not enough content that gives you something amazing to learn in every single video. And that is what I want to change going forward on my channel. And over the last few weeks, I've already tried to achieve that, giving you shorter, more precise tutorials that should always include something new that you can directly implement into your daily photography routine. And I hope you've already enjoyed those videos. And if you did, please give me some feedback on them down there in the comments, because I'm really hopeful to be able to push that channel to the next level and providing great value for you in every single video. I would also like to do more editing videos because I love image editing and I think it's such an important part of the photography process to be able to edit your images, and the one area where most people can actually improve upon the most. Ironically, I spend so much time talking about photos and taking photos that I don't find a lot of time to edit my own photos outside of the ones that I need for my camera and lens reviews. But recently I found at least a little bit of time to edit one more image that I wanted to show you today of two tiny little fig parrots feeding on a fig tree in Cairns. And over the last few years, I never had a lot of luck with these birds. So when I finally found a tree where every morning a few of these birds will come in to feed, I spent as much time as possible at that spot. And as it often happens, the best shots I got on the very last morning. And these are some of Australia's smallest birds, so even though I was quite close to them, I still had to use my 600mm prime lens with the 1.4 extender. And this image was also a good example while I feel like a bright background often helps to make the images look better, make them more artistic, and also make the birds stand out. The original file had a bit of a darker browner background, which I just felt like didn't really match the birds. And so when I lightened it up a bit and greened it up a little bit, I felt like I was getting a much nicer overall and more pleasant to look at image. In my video last week about exposure, I also showed you some handy editing tips how to transition a dark background onto a lighter bird or the other way around, and other handy tips in Lightroom, for instance, like how you can intersect the subject selection mask with a brush so you can brush just within your subject. So if you're interested in image editing, you should definitely check out that video. And if you want to learn even more and learn everything you need to know when it comes to image editing, I would highly recommend that you check out my Lightroom and Next Generation Photoshop Masterclasses. In these classes, I teach you all the tools and techniques you need in Photoshop and Lightroom step by step and in easy to follow chapters, so it will become easy for you to turn your own RAW files into true masterpieces ready to be shared with the world. But you won't just be watching. I will provide you with the RAW files that I'm working on in my tutorial so you can edit right alongside me. And if you're not sure if my classes are worth it or the right fit for you, check out some of these amazing reviews I've already received from many happy customers. So if you want to turn image editing from a frustrating chore into a rewarding experience and learn a workflow that will not only help you to get great results, but also bring the joy back into the editing process for you, then make sure to check out my Lightroom and Next Generation Photoshop Masterclasses that are linked for you down there in the description. I haven't been out too much over the Christmas period with my gear, but one camera that I took into the field a few times is the R1. It has that amazing great electronic viewfinder and fantastic image stabilization. And recently I used it in combination with the 200 to 800 photographing an egret rookery. And there I've gotten some fantastic results. The autofocus was nice and snappy. I could do handheld video, and all around I just enjoyed the combo of that super fast, great working camera with that great electronic viewfinder. And in combination with the flexibility of the 200 to 800, I was also able to get a great variety of shots. So I know the R1 is definitely a luxury, but at the same time, it's a really fun camera to use in the field, and one that sometimes makes me even forget that it only has 24 megapixels because I just overall enjoy that camera so much. A lot of you guys have also asked me about an R1 camera setup guide, and I will be making that video soon. There's just a few tweaks I need to do on my website at the moment before I'm ready to do that, but hopefully I'll sort that out over the next couple of weeks. And if you guys know anyone who's good at the implementation and design of Shopify shops, I would love to hear from you, and you could help me maybe implement one on my own website. 2025 seems to be shaping up to be an exciting year for new gear releases. We will likely see the Sony a7 IV, the Nikon Z9 II, Canon R6 Mark III, and most importantly for many of you, also the Canon R7 Mark II amongst some exciting lenses. So it looks like we'll definitely be spoiled for choice when it comes to spending our hard-earned dollars on some new gear. Over the last few weeks and months, we've seen some exciting and somewhat crazy rumors at times about new zoom lenses that Canon is working on. I think a lot of them will never come to fruition and they're just patents. But at the same time, there's some really cool ones we should definitely be talking about. And I think the main takeaway here is really that Canon seems to be working on implementing more and more zoom lenses instead of only doing prime lenses, especially when it comes to the sort of longer focal range. They've already shown with their great 100 to 300mm f2.8 lens that they're willing to make slightly larger, heavier zoom lenses in favor of smaller but less flexible prime lenses. The difference in philosophy you can really see when you compare the 100 to 300mm f2.8 lens to Sony's new 2.8 300mm prime lens. Sony's lens is much smaller, much lighter and works a little bit better with teleconverters, whereas at the same time Canon's lens is a little bit heavier, a little bit bigger, but then gives you that amazing flexibility and that amazing image stabilization. So definitely a clash of different philosophies, and I must say I'm kind of leaning towards favoring the side that makes more zoom lenses, simply because that added flexibility in the field can help you to either carry less lenses or get you some shots you may not have been able to get otherwise. Here's also an interesting quote from Canon that I totally agree with. These days, as an imaging optical system to be used for an imaging apparatus, kind of tricky way to say camera and lens, a compact and lightweight zoom lens that offers high optical performance throughout the entire zoom range while achieving a long focal length at the telephoto end is demanded. I don't know what your take is on the whole prime lens versus zoom lens thing, but I think if we could have zoom lenses that have similar image quality and similar image look to a prime lens, I would definitely prefer to have a zoom lens for that added flexibility. One very interesting rumor this week was that Canon seems to be working on a new version of the 100 to 500mm lens. And first I thought that's definitely crazy, why would we need another lens like this? But then at the same time I thought if it's an internal zoom with a faster aperture and you could use teleconverter with it without restriction, I think that lens could actually be quite appealing, even though it would likely be a bit larger and probably more expensive. The 100 to 500mm lens is a great lens, but at the same time, it definitely has a few annoying limitations. And I know a lot of you guys in particular also don't like the external zoom design. So having a newly designed 100 to 500mm lens could definitely be interesting. Would you guys agree? It also got me thinking that there's actually quite a gap in the Canon lineup, and there should be a few lenses that Canon needs to address over the next few years. And that is anything between the 100 to 500 and basically the f4 or f2.8 prime lenses. There's nothing in the, let's say, $5,000 to $10,000 range that's sort of a mid of the range telephoto lens or zoom lens, similar to what Nikon has with their 600 and 800mm PF lenses. And there's actually been another release of patents this week that might address this. Because we could also look at the 100 to 500mm lens from a different angle and say the 100 to 500mm lens is actually a 100 to 400mm lens on steroids. And if we look at that lens from that perspective, that would definitely leave a lot of room for like a 180 to 600 or 200 to 600 or 200 to 700mm L zoom lens that kind of sits between the 100 to 500 and then the big f4 and f2.8 prime lenses. And Canon released a few of these patents this week, and they actually sound very interesting with nice design and slightly faster apertures as well. And they also would be L lenses. So it gives us something that kind of fills in that gap that's kind of glaring in the Canon lineup at the moment. You either have to buy old EF lenses, the 100 to 500, the 200 to 800, or the big prime lenses. There's nothing really in the middle where people say that's great image quality, great value for money, and delivers fantastically in the field. What would be your favorite picks of all these zoom lenses? Or do you say I much prefer a smaller prime lens similar to like a Nikon 600 PF? Let's talk about the topic that many of you find a little bit boring until it's too late. And when it's too late, you will definitely regret not having thought about solutions to this problem earlier. I'm talking about hard drives to back up your images or to back up your images in the field, because this is crucially important unless you enjoy losing your files, and I don't think any of us really do that. Over the last few years, I've mainly been using these SanDisk and WD external SSD hard drives, and they have been satisfactory, but not exactly what I needed. And over the last few years, they've also seemed to have developed a few issues in terms of reliability if you look at the reviews on B&H Photos website, for instance. Samsung is also making some of these drives, but there has always been some issues where I wasn't quite happy with these drives. The main one for me is that you can only get them in a capacity up to 4 terabytes, and when you shoot a lot of video and do a lot of reviews, that fills up pretty quickly in the field, and then having to store a whole trip over 2 or 3 different hard drives is not really a good strategy for me. And I know for the last few years, a lot of you guys have said, why don't you just get yourself an external enclosure and buy some hard drives? And I always thought, oh, I don't know how this works. This is a little bit difficult. But then recently I decided this is just what I have to do. And so I went ahead and got myself one of these Zyke drives. And in this drive, I have an 8 terabyte WD Black SSD hard drive, which is super fast. And I went for this Zyke drive because in the reviews that I've seen, it seemed to have been among the fastest, if not the fastest hard drive. And if I do a speed test on this drive enclosure now with this WD Black 8 terabyte drive, I get super high read and write speeds on my M1 Max MacBook Pro with the Thunderbolt 4 port, and I get over 3 gigabytes per second in read and write speed, which is fantastic. So downloading is now a lot faster, and it's very easy for me to download my files very quickly in the field onto this hard drive. And I'm also able to easily edit even videos off this hard drive. And the best thing for me is that now I also have one big 8 terabyte hard drive available, so I can definitely store all my files and videos from one trip all on the one hard drive. There's thousands of different of these enclosures on the market, and the main reason I went with this one is that it seems to be able to deliver the fastest transfer speeds, and also it takes 8 terabyte drives. If you use a lot of these other enclosures, they don't often allow you to use 8 terabyte drives and often only allow you up to 4 terabyte drives. So if you're on the market for a new hard drive, I think the perfect solution is actually to kind of go past these drives and think about building yourself something like this. All you need to do really is get yourself an enclosure and then buy yourself a 1, 2, 4 or 8 terabyte NVMe SSD drive. And I was a bit skeptical how difficult it would be to install this drive, but it's really easier than you can possibly imagine. All I had to do is take the hard drive, stick it into the enclosure, close it up, and I'm done. So definitely very easy to do. And now I have a hard drive that didn't cost me that much and gives me much faster speeds and hopefully the best possible reliability as well. And the good thing is that this hard drive is actually faster than the fastest enclosures at the moment. So in the future, if there will be Thunderbolt 5 enclosures, I'm actually able to take out this expensive fast hard drive and put it in a different faster enclosure and even get faster download and read speeds. So going forward, that's definitely what I will be doing, because you're not only saving money, but you're also getting faster and better and hopefully more reliable performance. The only thing I'd recommend if you're in the market for a new hard drive is that you shop around a little bit and kind of watch the hard drive prices for a little while. I was in the market for my 8 terabyte hard drive just before Christmas, and I just watched the prices for a week or two, and in that 1 week on Amazon, the price went anywhere from 1,500 Aussie dollars down to 900 Aussie dollars. And when it hit that 900 Aussie dollars, I bounced on it and got a really good deal on the hard drive. So shopping around or looking at the prices for a little while will definitely help to get a good deal on these hard drives. Here's one more tip, because this is the last week where you can still change your Adobe plans before the prices go up and some of the photography plans will not be offered anymore. So if you're on the edge whether you want to sign up to Adobe or you're currently on a monthly subscription, it makes sense to change over or buy a new yearly subscription to the Adobe photography plan, because the prices from the 15th of January or your next renewal period will go up. So if you sign up now for a yearly plan, you will still be able to lock in your $9.99 or $14.99 per month. Whereas if you wait until the 15th of January or after, whenever your new plan renews, you will then be hit with like $15 or $20 per month. So it would be worthwhile, if you like using Adobe Photoshop and Lightroom like I do, to go into your Adobe Creative Cloud and see if there's a better deal currently available. And I think until next week, it should definitely still be there for you. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this week's Early Bird Photo News. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I would love to hear all your thoughts in the comments about hard drives, shipping costs, new lenses, and whatever else comes to mind. Also give me that thumbs up, check out my channel membership, my new masterclasses, and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in another video very soon. Bye!